Hey there! If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. I'll say that again. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast. Oh, yep, with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Now it's time for the Big Bad Broadcast.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to the Big Bad Broadcast. And you can find us on the Big Bad Broadcast on Facebook. I was going to pause it. It's a dramatic pause.
Yeah, dramatic.
Or you can find us on our website at www.thebbbbradio.com. And we got a great show for you today. We got women in comedy, influential women in comedy, and an old dear friend of mine. And let me introduce you to some of the people that we have on the show today. We have Mike Grief.
Mike Prevagen Grief. That's the stuff that you get from octopuses or goldfish or wherever they get it.
Jellyfish.
But a memory. Yeah, jellyfish. I forgot. Jellyfish.
Jellyfish are known for their incredible memories.
That's right.
Really?
And we have Yoda, Craig Mitchell.
I am the driving force behind
there
this.
you go.
There you go.
Oh, God.
Bring me
And
a
then,
snack.
we have Jello Silky who's out on location again.
Wow, he's
with Eunice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know we paid it. But he did do a little video, right?
Yeah, they did. Did they elope? Let's be honest. Did they?
I don't know. We sent them to the Bronx Zoo to cover the story that years ago they had a pygmy in there, and this is what he brings us back.
And now, the Big Bad Broadcast is proud to present to you, from the four corners of the world, some of the most unusual stories and facts you'll ever see. This is Believe It, If You Want. These extraordinary stories are true and filmed on location. Remember, believe it if you want.
The Bronx Zoo, also known as Bronx Zoological Park or Bronx Zoological Gardens, is New York City's Bronx Park. It is one of the largest zoos in the United States in terms of area and the largest metropolitan zoo in location, with 265 acres. The zoo debuted on November 8, 1899, with 843 animals in 22 exhibits. The organization's initial director, William Temple Hornaday, served for 30 years. Since its founding, the zoo has played an essential role in animal conservation. The Bronx Zoo is now known worldwide for its vast and diverse animal collection and award-winning displays. In addition, the zoo is one of 4 zoos and 1 aquarium that make up the Wildlife Conservation Society's integrated system. As a result, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums has given it its seal of approval. Today I'm at the Bronx Zoo in search of the rare seldom seen the sable sayuri. It is one of the biggest popular draws at the zoo. Even the great pandas are at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. Do not receive as many guests like the famous the sable sayuri. If I spot one today, you are going to be a real treat. But first, look at some of the zoo's more common inhabitants. Now the rare seldom seen. The sable sayuri. Otherwise known as the black squirrel.
Okay, I want to know what he's doing with that money. He took some stock footage of the zoo and then showed us his squirrel.
What does he think? What is he? He's filming in his backyard
Yeah,
and took
I
the rest
watched-
off the internet.
I watched that whole video. Not one New York Yankee. What the hell? Bronx Zoo.
The Bronx Zoo. Oh man, I'm telling you, I think he's I think he. Now I know where he is. He took the money that we give him and he eloped at Eunice or something because he did not go to the zoo.
Yeah, but apparently, maybe you shot part of it in your backyard, Mike. There's your monkeys.
The monkeys, no, because
Monkey tribe.
Monkey army.
my monkeys all wear different colored hats, so you can tell them apart.
Oh, okay.
That's not my monkeys.
All right. Well, I got something I got to get off my chest. I know that we don't get political. This isn't political because even if you're a Republican, you got to think these people are crazy. They had a QAnon meeting in Dallas, Texas at Dealey Plaza.
I'm supposed to believe that, John?
Because they were waiting for John F. Kennedy Jr. to come back from the dead so that he could run with Trump as his vice president.
That makes sense.
They said that President Trump is secretly waging. They say President Trump is secretly waging war on the evil cabal of liberals who rig elections, run the CIA, and abduct children, and hide all the UFO and kill Princess Diana, and did Hurricane Katrina and invented vampirism.
Yeah.
Liberals killed President Kennedy. Kennedy faked his death so he could come back and join Trump to become a president. And they faked. Actually, now they're saying, and in the same sentence, say that Kennedy Jr. was killed to make way for Hillary Clinton. So they're saying he's dead, but he's coming back from the dead because he is Q.
Wait,
He never died.
Do they have this
ridiculous
written
is all
down
this
anywhere?
stuff? I mean, yes, we did Katrina. Okay, we did Hurricane Katrina. I'll admit that, but the rest of it is just ridiculous.
Well, wait, no. They say that they printed a thing on how the deep state works.
Does it explain it?
Yeah, show it. It's so simple to follow.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's the actual thing. They say that you can follow all the lines and it explains QAnon perfectly.
No, you know what that
It
is?
looks like
That's the placemat at the insane asylum. That's when you draw the line to, you're trying to draw the characters and stuff.
No, Mike. That's my low carb diet.
Which is about as easy to follow as Q.
it's the want section from the New York Times that somebody scribbled on.
Yeah. My new.
All right,
job.
enough of this. It just blows my mind that people could be this crazy.
Take the picture. There you go.
And Craig, you got a big event, right? Your cooking show is coming on tonight,
My
right?
cooking show. Well, the night that we're taping this, yeah.
Yes.
Thursdays on Taste on TV at 7:30 p.m. is Off the Cuff Healthy Cooking with Craig Mitchell, and I share my low carb recipes, which you just saw the recipe for, and
and that was the recipe for low carb rice.
Yes,
It's also simple.
it's a little work, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Tell
what
him
is
to make
your
potato
special?
chips.
Yeah, but let's see these famous potato chips.
Yeah, he's always bragging about his potato chips.
I made these air fried potato chips. They changed my life. There you go.
Yeah. But you got to slice them, dice them, cook them, you boil them. I give $2. I can go out and buy a bag of potato chips. It takes you 3 days to make 4 chips?
Mike, you see all those chips?
Yeah.
Only 3 days. Come on.
Okay, well
Come on,
then
man.
it's worth it.
20 minutes. It's like 20. What are you talking about? Go dice. It's 20, and that's only one potato. That's one. This is one. Oh, I just screwed it up. Okay, I think
That's one potato.
I just deleted
It
all.
take me a day just to slice up a potato.
That's one potato right there.
They are golden brown. I'm gonna have to go get some now. You see, now you're making me hungry.
Make them. Slice a potato and make them.
Yeah, I'm gonna make them. I can go get a bag of Lay's for $2. I'm gonna freaking do that, please.
Hey, did you know that Herman Lay was a traveling salesman, and he found potato chips in the north, and he started selling them in the south out of the trunk of his car, and that's how he started Lay's potato
And
chips.
is that how a good lay came about?
How come we are 20 years behind on potato chips compared to England?
What do you mean?
No, they have crisps, John. Crisps.
Yeah, they're
Yes,
those-
yes, but
different.
they have every flavor in the world: bacon, chicken, turkey, cheddar turkey,
Yeah.
trout. I mean,
You know what America has? America has Cajun squirrel, and I think we just saw it at the Bronx Zoo. They do Cajun squirrel flavor. They do have. We have that, and Japan is nuts. Japan has seaweed,
Mhm.
wasabi, soy sauce, and butter.
For
Butter
what?
for your
Potato chips?
Yeah.
Actually, wasabi, man. I love that. I love that flavor.
I would like
on
that
the
too.
snacks.
That's good.
I would like that also.
And yeah,
So
you know,
is your cooking show considered a reality show?
In what reality?
In what
What's
reality?
So that's what I'm asking.
It's
Like,
all-
what reality does someone cut up 20 potatoes for 6 months to make a bag of chips?
So this is supposed to promote my show, John? It's an alternate reality.
I
show.
will tell
Listen.
you that Craig used to be on Facebook all the time. Every day was air fryer this, air fryer that, and all I did was make fun of him and his air fryer. Every day I'd put some snotty comment,
Yeah.
and then I went out and I bought an air fryer because I was so inundated by like his air fryer stuff. And I have to admit, man, it is really pretty amazing.
It is.
You make a whole chicken like in 45 minutes.
French fries,
Yeah.
you can bacon it. It's really, as a matter of fact, on Taste on TV, for 4 years, I was putting my YouTube channel into all these Facebook groups where you had to talk about air frying. So I air fried in every episode. So on Taste on TV, I waited till episode 10 to whip out the air fryer. I kind of gave myself a breather. But yeah, I use an air fryer personally every night. So
And you got like 3 of them, right?
I have 3. I have 2 10-quart ones, and I have an oven. Yeah, and I also have one at work, at my old desk job. It's a small one.
Nice. And what's up with you, Michael?
What's up with me? I don't know. I've got an air fryer too, but I only use it to boil water. No, I'm not a.
To make ice cream.
Well, you're talking about reality TV, and I'll tell you this: it's like I don't mind the cooking show, and I can't stand most of the reality TV because first of all, the reality TV started with the show Cops, so it was the first one. So right away, I didn't like it. And then there was America's Most Wanted, which I hated because I kept getting turned in like every couple of weeks. I get mostly by my mother. You know what I mean? Hey, you might want to check. I think it was my. So I think she turned me in as the Unabomber 3 times. You know what I mean? So I got a manifesto, but it's not as crazy as that guy. But no, and I don't know. Listen, the truth is that I mean, like I said, the cooking shows. I don't know. My wife loves the flipping shows. You know, when they buy you buy a house for nothing and this and that. But the Honey Boo Boos and the Floribama, it's like the Kardashians.
I used to love
You
Honey
can
Boo
keep all
Boo.
of that crap.
I used to watch Honey Boo Boo.
I never watched
It
it.
blew me
American Chop. You should, Mike. You didn't like American Chopper? Come on, you ride a
No,
bike.
because they build pieces of shit. You can't ride those bikes. See, I'm the real. It's like I want a motorcycle I can ride. You look at those bikes, and the handlebars are up here. You can't really ride those bikes. Ask anybody. They're not comfortable. They're pieces of crap.
Okay.
I mean, maybe your average citizen they look nice, but they're
For
just
$300,000 a build.
Paul Tuttle is now looking for you. Right,
he
officially.
can look all he wants.
Well, that's pretty crazy.
It is.
Well, should we get going with the show? Because then we have a guest in the waiting room.
Absolutely.
And so our guest for today, I said this is our thing about women in comedy. And she's a really, really good friend. I've known her for years. We went back and we did a tour together, little nights here and there. And she's been nominated for Emmys, and she's been to Iraq, Kuwait, and all these great places. And she's just an amazing, amazing comic and one of the funniest female comedians. I used to tell people what I loved about her act is a guy could do her act and it would still be funny. And she's an amazing person. Let's welcome Sue Kolinsky.
Hey.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Hey, Sue.
Thanks for having me. I was listening to your stories, and I just have to add that, John, I don't know if you remember this, but Paul Provenza had a very, very funny joke about the Bronx Zoo.
The Bronx Zoo.
About how they had Bronx animals.
Right.
They had oids, toidles, right? And then,
Elephants up on cinder blocks.
right. And he said it's the only zoo where the animals actually ask for more bars on the cages.
Yeah. And then he did that thing about he heard 2 lions talking. He goes, tomorrow night at midnight, I'm busting out of here. And the one goes, what are you, crazy? It's the Bronx. It's a jungle out there.
Hey, but you get great snacks Well, any animal that dies is at the snack bar the next day.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Where else are you going to eat zebra?
Nice. Really nice. So, Sue, what have you been doing lately?
Well, I do a podcast as well, like
Right.
me and everyone else. My dog do a podcast with a guy named Steve Mason, who I don't know if you guys are big sports guys, but he has a sports radio show out here in LA on ESPN LA, and we did a radio show in New York many years ago on WNEW, like 20 years ago. We had a morning show for I guess like a year and a half.
Right.
So he and I, we've been friends forever, and we started doing a podcast maybe 3 years ago. And it's an interview show, kind of similar to what you guys are doing. Interview people from all walks of life, and it's a blast. So I've been doing that, and I've been developing reality shows that you hate. But I'm actually developing a couple of shows right now. I can't really tell you what they are, but I can tell you the arena. They're cooking centric shows with celebrities, but they're funny.
Right.
So
no, see, I have no problem with those kind of shows. I'm talking about the ones that are like these personality, phony driven ones. Floribama Shore, the Kardashian. It's like where there's nothing really there. It's just you're looking at a freak show.
Well, it's crazy because, I started my career as obviously a stand-up, and then I became a writer. So I was doing scripted for a bunch of years. And then when I came back from New York from the radio show, I started getting into doing reality stuff. And the Osbournes I had done a couple of kind of like crappy shows, but the Osbournes really started my reality career. And that show was so different from anything that you see today, because I hear what you're saying, Mike. A lot of these other shows that have come since then, they're people that they just kind of put together. A lot of these people don't know each other.
Like Jersey Shore.
A lot of it is scripted. When we did the Osbournes, nothing was written. Right. We just showed up and we shot footage.
The only thing I remember about the Osbournes is Sharon, the remote. Sharon, the remote.
Fucking Prince of Darkness here. The Prince of Darkness.
And I was saying before we started today that the Osbournes is probably the best example of a really good reality show.
Yeah. Well, because it was real. I mean, they were a real family. Nobody told anybody what to say. It was all, like I said, and back then, in the early days of reality, these shows didn't cost like a ton of money. Right. We shot I think Jeff Stilson, who is an executive producer on the show and one of the creators, he figured out that I think for every minute we used, we looked at 500 hours of footage. So we just shot like crazy. Wow. And we had 3 different segment producers who would go to the house or I never went remotely. I only went to the house. And we would just shoot, and you'd sit in Video Village where the director sat with all the cameras, and you would just see what was going on. It was like, oh, Ozzy's coming down the stairs, or, oh, the kids just woke up. And you would just shoot. And whatever you got, you were a slave to the footage. You had to make a show with whatever you had. We never went back and reshot anything.
Well, here's a great question. You must have caught, Ozzy or anyone in that family in some really compromising positions that didn't make the show, like Ozzy walking down and forgot to dress or something like that. And, were there a lot of stuff like that where it's stuff you couldn't show on the show? But
there were a few things we didn't show on the show just because we were a very classy group of people. So if it was anything that that would have made them put them in a compromising position,
right?
We didn't use it, and there were times where Ozzy wanted us to use certain things, but it didn't really go with. It just made them look bad, so we didn't do stuff like that. We just did what was funny, and the beauty of the Osbournes is because I worked on so many reality shows after that. Like I worked on Newlyweds after that. The Osbournes gave us so much access. Like Sharon can give a shit whether, you saw her in her pajamas or you saw her just waking up in the morning with her hair in a million different directions and no makeup. Jessica was more refined. was more self-conscious. We weren't allowed to shoot in Jessica and Nick's bedroom. I think we shot in there once when they were packing to go on a trip. But the Osbournes gave us access to every room in the house except Ozzy's bath. It was his private bathroom in the downstairs. We were not allowed to. That was like his sanctity. We were not allowed to shoot in that bathroom.
That's where he had all the drugs and his.
But he was so, he was such a live, crazy character that he just made great TV because he was just so funny without even knowing he was funny.
Exactly. He had no idea how funny
he had no idea how funny he was.
And that's the thing. It's like, I have no problem with that kind of reality TV. It's like, it's a look into something that's real. It's interesting. Who hasn't wondered about Ozzy Osbourne or somebody like that? But the stuff that I can't, like I said, Temptation, where they put people somewhere to cheat on each other, and it's just contrived and phony, and it's nothing real. It's all scripted. I just hate all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, it was a rude awakening to me when I started to work on other shows when I left MTV, because like I worked on this show. It was I think it was like Nanny 911 or something, and it was all these dysfunctional families. And but they weren't as dysfunctional as we portrayed them, because who would want to watch that really? So they would put the kids in situations and make them, act in a way that they normally weren't acting, just so we had something to go with. And it was I remember calling one of the other executive producers from the Osbournes at the time. I remember calling him and like almost crying to him because I was on hiatus from Newlyweds and I just took the job. I just was going to do one episode. And I said, you got to get me out of here. I said, this is like so hard, because I went from pure reality to like bullshit. And but I'll tell you a funny story. I worked on this really horrible show. I worked on so many horrible shows. One of them was it was about a group of women in Nashville, and they were all supposed to be really, really good friends, like women that had known each other for like 10 years. So
like the Housewives of Nashville or something.
Yeah, well, it was before the Housewives franchise.
Right.
But that's kind of what that show would have been called if it came later. So there was a scene that we shot, and it was one of the women had just started dating this guy, and she really was dating this guy, and she had a very colorful personality. He was kind of a drag. He wasn't great on camera, but he was really her boyfriend. So she invited him over for dinner for the first time, and she made him dinner, and he came over, and he was kind of cute. He was helping her in the kitchen, whatever. And then they sat down to have dinner, and it wasn't, it was kind of flat. So the network sees the cut and said, we don't really like this scene. We want you to recut it and to show that she doesn't like him and they're breaking up. And it's like, but we didn't shoot it that way. And that's not, this is these people's lives.
Yeah.
So that's not what's going on. So we had to look at every inch of footage and look for moments where she went like that, and then make it like she hated him, It was so ridiculous.
It sounds. I did a part in a movie called Ed TV. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Yeah,
it was
sure.
Matthew McConaughey, and that was the whole thing where it was supposed to be this reality thing, but behind the scenes they were setting him up with all. But at least the star of the show was supposed to be oblivious. But that was.
But it's like when you're taking people's real lives, like with the Osbournes. If we were to ever manipulate anything, it was never to manipulate something to make something false. This is an example of manipulation. So Sharon and Ozzy were going to England, and we couldn't get access to shoot on a plane. We couldn't get inside a plane. We couldn't get close enough to the airport. So they were in a SUV, and the guy who was their driver, I think he was their road manager, we inserted a fake, like a hand of a real pilot from footage that we found online to make it look like he was doing something with instruments, right? And then as they drove off, we tilted the shot and made it look like the car was a plane and was taking off.
Wow.
So that was the kind of manipulation we would do.
Right.
But
that's ingenious. That's really very clever.
and that was what the beauty of. I mean, some people might say, "Oh God, it must have been so hard because you had to just use what you had." But it forced you to be so much more creative because you had no choice. You had to use what you had. And
that's what Joe Silkey's doing to us, trying to make us think he went to the Bronx Zoo with his phony phrase.
I mean, that's a staple of independent filmmaking. Like I was watching this movie, and you see an ambulance. You just see the door opens up, and there's a red cross on it. And my friend goes, because he makes movies, he goes, "So they have an ambulance, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "No, it's a van, and they just show you that, and they pull open the door, and you see the red cross." He goes, "If they have it, they show it." But what you just said there with that's just brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, I get a little mark on my computer. Well, I just want to tell you one other story. So I worked on the show, this Nashville show I was telling you about. So all these women, we have a scene where they're doing their annual like girls' weekend at some like lodge somewhere. So during the night, they're telling stories. Now, mind you, these women, some of them just met, right before the shoot. Okay,
Right.
So one of them shares a story about how she had an abortion. And all of the women are like, "Oh my God, that's so horrible." Now they're supposed to be friends for 10 years, right? And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? And we had to say to them, no, you know each other for 10 years. This should not be a surprise because women tell each other everything. I said, you know how intimate women are? I said, I can walk into a public bathroom, right? And meet some strange woman. And within 5 minutes, she could know the history of how I lost my virginity. And I just met her. I said, so these guys being together for 10 years don't know that one of their best friends had an abortion? It's just so anyways.
Well, see, guys would do better in a situation like that. We don't, because we like in reality, we lie about everything, It's like I could just meet John, and he's going to know 10 minutes later I lost my virginity with 14 women and 2 llamas,
Well, you know what it is? You know what it is with guys, because, John, I used to have a joke about this, about 2 people that Lou DiMaggio and Ken Ober, who were best of friends.
Right.
And they had been friends probably for, I don't know, 10 years or something like that at the time, I think, when I first met them, or 5 years. And I remember Kenny saying to me something like that he just found out that Lou had a brother. I said, "Are you for real? You didn't know he had a brother? You've been friends for 10 years?"
Why would you ask?
So that to me is just that you guys just don't talk a lot of times. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because like my girlfriend always gets asked me stuff, and she's like a big Mike Grief fan, and she always goes, "So, how many brothers and sisters does he have?" And I'm like,
I don't even know.
It's like it's just so funny. Like I go, "What are you, a detective?"
Well, you work for the CIA.
It's just like every single thing. Like she'll ask me these detailed questions that I guess I should know, but I have no idea.
John, you have a girlfriend?
Yes, I do.
I don't see. I won't. My family won't admit that they're family to me. They need plausible deniability.
So with all this reality thing, you've been nominated like 3 times or 4 times for Emmys.
Yeah. I was nominated for the Osbournes the 2nd season. They won the 1st season, but my producing title wasn't high enough to be nominated. So I got a certificate for contributions on the show, which was
cool.
honorable mention.
That's still very cool.
It was very cool. And then I got nominated twice for Top Chef. And of course, they won the year before I worked on the show.
Oh man. Half hour too late.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
See, I love those. I mean, I have no problem. Like my brother's a huge fan of Top Chef and shows like that. Like I said, my wife has showed The Flipper. They're interesting. You learn something. There's good characters, and they do seem like they're more real. So I mean, I have absolutely no problem with a show like that, or even the porn stars. We were talking about American Chopper. I can't stand that, but like what you're doing to me is that's good TV. There's nothing wrong with that. I didn't mean to be offensive and say all reality TV.
No. And
you're talking about shows like The Jersey Shore.
Yeah, no,
like
I
that
know.
was like,
Which is the dumbing down of America. You know what I mean? That really is.
Yeah, because people say to me, "What reality shows do you watch?" And I was like, I don't watch any reality TV.
right.
You know,
I
I
mean-
was there in the beginning. You know, well, not really the beginning, because the beginning was the Loud Family, which was that amazing series on PBS. Do you remember that show?
I
You guys?
remember it.
I guess that's pre-Cops, huh? I always said Cops. Cops was the first one that I
No,
remember.
the Loud Family was in the 70s, and it was basically it was an invasive, show about this family called the Louds, and they lived in New York, and Lance Loud became pretty famous. He was like a punk rocker, but
Lance
and he was
Loud. What a
and
name!
he was coming out at the time, so there was a lot of drama there. But his family was pretty wealthy, and that was the first. Well, and then even further back than that was Grey Gardens. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Edie and Edie Beale and.
Well, I guess actually Candid Camera was a reality show, right?
What was?
Candid Camera.
No, I wouldn't really.
Yeah.
consider
I'm
Candid
talking.
Camera.
Well, Candid Camera
Yeah.
definitely, but I'm talking about
Yeah.
where you're actually filming
Yes.
a
Yeah.
family.
There's a
Right.
show in England where it's just a family watching television, and it's hysterical. And they just all talk about, like the two older people are talking, like that conversation we've all had. Yeah, wasn't that guy in that movie with the other guy with the, and the other kids are like rolling their eyes. Look it up, But the whole show is that, and it's really pretty funny.
They did an American version of something like that years ago called "What's Alan Watching," and
I remember that title. Yeah.
And
it all
and-
lives
and
and
he-
dies
and-
by the personalities of the people, right?
yeah, and he would just sit there and kind of talk about the show and make fun of it or whatever.
So you haven't done stand up, you told me, in 10 years, right?
Well, it's kind of over 10 years now, but when I was writing, actually when I was writing, I still did it. I didn't do it as much because writing jobs, most of the time you're there till very late, and I couldn't go to a club after work. So when I was in New York doing the radio show, I never did anything during the week unless I was booked at Caroline's, and it was, I had to do some week shows because I had to get up at like 3:30 in the morning. So, but I always did stand up at least on a Saturday. And then when I moved back to LA, I kind of kept a hand in it. And then I just started working so much that it was really hard, being a stand-up. It's, if you're not writing new material and you're not polishing, if you're not polished, I would forget my act, and then I get bored with it because I was talking about things that I had been talking about for a long time. So I stopped doing it completely. And then I guess around, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, Wendy Liebman,
We love Wendy.
She's
Yeah,
great.
we had her on this show. Yeah.
She's the best. So she books a room in LA. It's one night a month. And
Vitello's.
Vitello's.
yeah. So she kept on asking me if I wanted to do a set, and I said, I don't do stand up anymore. And she says, oh, it's such a waste. You were so funny. You should come back. Please do the show. And I said, I appreciate it, but I'm so not interested. So then she sent me an email the following week with 3 dates, and she said, pick one. So I said, okay. So I waited for the last date, and it was December. I'll never forget. It was December 27th. And I used to go down to Florida. My husband's family lives in Florida. So every Christmas we go down to Florida.
Where in Florida?
In Stewart.
Oh, really? That's next time. Call me. I'm not that far.
Oh, cool. Oh, actually, I'm going to be there soon.
Cool.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So, it was around Christmas time. So on the way, and I was neurotic. I knew in July I was doing the show in December, and I thought about it. I was nervous every day because I hadn't done it in so long, and I couldn't do too much of my old act because it just it wasn't relevant to me anymore. So, so we get down to Florida. And there's a snowstorm, of course, and we get stuck. We get rerouted on the way back, and we end up in Chicago, and then we couldn't get out of Chicago. So they flew us to St. Louis, And then we had to leave the next day, and I'm thinking, oh, great. Then maybe I won't have to do the show, So, and then the night before, so it turned out that we were going to be able to get back for the show. So the night before, just sitting in the hotel room, and some local talk show comes on, and Judd Apatow is the guest. And the question was, what do you miss the most about stand-up? And he started talking about, just the camaraderie, hanging out in clubs, writing jokes on matchbook covers and napkins, and just the whole vibe of being a comic. That's what I miss. And as he's talking about it, I started to feel really sentimental, and I was like, how could I not do this?
Yeah.
So I did it, and it was really fun. And then I just didn't do it, for probably a year. And then a year later, Carol Montgomery, who does her Women of a Certain Age show, she asked me to do one of her gigs. And that was like magical. And I thought to myself afterwards, how do I not do stand-up anymore?
Yeah.
This is so much fun. But I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. I was away from it for a long time. I went back. I had a great time. And then after that show, I could never get that same high. And I got very frustrated. I did some other shows. I did some kind of crappy rooms. And it just didn't feel good. And I was like, you know what? I'm never going to be the stand-up that I used to be. I'm just not. And that's not good enough for me. So that's why I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, because you were like my favorite female comedian.
Oh.
No, you were. I mean, we had some great time doing those chorus jobs too.
Oh God.
But I've had some similar experience to what you're talking about. I've been away especially with COVID last few years, and even before that, I was really only doing stand up at for charity events, fundraisers, and things like that. And because it's not only that, but it's hard to make a living at. I'm married now, settled down. It's like I got to, I'm not going to travel 50 weeks or 40 weeks out of the year, and whatever. So yeah, and then you go on, and the same thing. It's that fear. I'm not going to remember my act and this and that. But
Right.
The only thing I have different is I don't like to, but I can still do material that I wrote. God knows how much. It's all character driven stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't waste my time with political anything like that. It's all character driven, just so that it's always relevant. But I know what you're saying though, and you get on, you get that charge, and you go, how did I ever stop doing this? This is magic. And then you go on next week at something messing around and nobody laughs, and you go, God, I hate this. This is terrible. Why do I put myself through this?
Right.
Well, I used to say as comedians, we complain when we didn't have enough work, and we complain when we had too much work.
It's true.
What I mean? It's like, look at all these shows I got to do this month. Oh, I don't have anything this month. It's crazy.
Well, talking about, Mike actually helped. I retired from stand-up in 2001 when I moved to Los Angeles, and I then came out of the closet. And then Mike was one of the people who said, you should reinvestigate your stand-up now that you can be honest about yourself. And in 2016, 2017, I actually wrote a new 20 minutes. He actually booked me a couple of times. He was really cool. And it worked. I was satisfied. And then I retired again.
Yeah. And, I started, Mike, you were talking about you didn't do topical. I started to become more of a topical comedian later in my career. So I got booked. I did a show with a friend of mine, Monica Piper. It was at a Jewish university. And I'm thinking, oh, Jews, everybody here is going to be Democrats, So, I opened up with something like, I've been for the past couple of years, I've been yelling at my TV I've been yelling at my TV for the past 2 years, and it's all obviously about Trump. So, some woman just goes, like one woman kind of groaned. And I just looked at her, and I had a little bit of an exchange with her, and I did a bunch of Trump jokes, and 90% of the audience was totally with me, but I could see the puss on this woman's face. So after the show, we did a Q&A, and she says to me, you really have to be careful with the kind of material that you do. Because you don't know who's in the audience, you really take a risk. And I looked at her and I said, look, you take a risk, I take a risk. Okay. I said, you take a risk by walking into a club and not knowing who you're going to see.
Right.
And I have no idea what everybody's political affiliation is. I have no idea what anybody's affiliation with anything is when they walk in that room.
And
so,
they
you know,
should all
for
just
you,
shut up. It's like you're a comedian. You're not a philosopher. I'm just trying to make people laugh. I'm not trying to give you a new political fucking, you know.
And she was, you know, she was just so hell bent on me talking about things that she did not like. And I said, look, I don't get a list of everybody that walks in and get their likes and dislikes and then distinguish what to do. I said, that's not the way this works. You walk into a comedy club, it's whatever the comedian's going to say. Either you like it or you don't like it. So, you know, and the people in the audience applauded, and they kind of didn't like this woman. So after the Q&A, the woman who booked the show didn't know me, had never seen my act, but knew Monica, and Monica had recommended me. So when she went to pay us, she looked at me and she said, you know, if I knew that you were going to do political humor, I would have asked you not to. And I looked at her and I said, I'm glad that you didn't know. Because I don't like being censored. And look, you know, there's some places, you know, if someone says to you beforehand, look, you know, I'd really appreciate it if you stay away from this, whatever. Okay, you know, but it's just it's a completely different climate. You know, John, you'll really appreciate this. I worked at I think it was, what was Richie's brother? Was it Chuckles?
Chuckles.
I think, yeah, it was Chuckles. So I get booked at Chuckles, right, in Long Island. And this was at the time when the guy who produced Linda Lovelace movies, he was going to jail. Because he had taken the film and brought it across state line. And so he was going to prison. And this was his last night before he was going away. And he was with his family. And
At Chuckles?
He wanted to get a deep laugh.
So this was his opportunity to kind of have like his last hurrah at a comedy club, have fun with his family. So I had no idea this guy's in the audience. And I do a Linda Lovelace joke, right? Just randomly have a Linda Lovelace joke. And Chuck didn't say anything. Someone else came over to me and said,
Alan. There was a guy named Alan.
Yeah, he said,
Barner.
nice job. Because the guy railed into him that I did this joke. And Alan starts giving me shit. And I said, well, nobody told me this guy was going to be in the audience. So the hell with you.
Yeah.
But I can't believe he got me. He like, called me out on it.
Oh my God, that was like at Governor's. Joey Buttafuoco used to hang out there all the time, and who the hell knew? And you go up and you do these jokes and stuff, and then afterwards, he always thought he was like a gangster, like he's gonna make drive. He came up to me one time and he said something. Like, get the fuck out of here!
I used to know Joey really well.
Fucking beat your ass in the alley.
He used to work on my car.
Well,
because when I worked in the hospital, Complete Auto Body was right next door, and I always had sports cars and we kind of became friends. And he would, I mean, I hadn't seen him since, but, you know, and then I think that guy, Jimmy Finn, that owned Governor's, he lives up the block from Jimmy. So Jimmy had this big party and took everyone like on a field trip to show him Joey Buttafuoco's house. And we're standing outside and Joey comes out on the lawn, right? Like all pissed off. He goes, Ferrantino, come on in. So I had to go in the house, and it was like, and then everyone was like, what was it like in there? You know, this is crazy.
Well, it's crazy. You know, I have a girlfriend that I grew up with, and she was a teenager, and he worked on her car. And I said, well, did he like come on to you? She said, no. I said, oh, good. And she's, you know, she's like gorgeous.
Right.
I was kind of shocked that he didn't come on to her.
Because Amy Fisher would have shot her.
I don't have a Joey
it was way before Amy Fisher.
Yeah, I don't have a Joey Buttafuoco story, but I do have his porn. I downloaded that.
So you also did some USO shows too, right?
Yeah. I went everywhere. It was.
What is that picture of?
Okay, so I was doing a show. We were in Greenland, and it was. They had this thing there where everyone who I don't know if it was comedians, but anyone who was enlisted during the course of their stay there, they had to join the polar bear club. That was kind of like a requisite. So at the show the night before, they challenged me and said, "Do you want to do it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, what do I get for this?" And they said, "Well, you'll get like a certificate." And there were 2 other comedians with me, and they wouldn't do it. So I said, "Yes, I'll totally do it." So the only bathing suit I had was a 2-piece bathing suit. The water, it was just above freezing. It was like probably 38, 39 degrees. The water was insane. So they picked me up at 9 o'clock in the morning. They had a doctor and a priest standing on shore right before, just to make sure, if something happened. I couldn't just like run in. I had to get my head wet. And then they wrapped me up, that blanket there. They wrapped me up in wool blankets. And I had, my ears were like ringing. And like, I'm shocked I didn't get an ear infection. But so that was really, really cool. And there were icebergs in the water. I mean, it was crazy.
Those were other contestants.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in Alaska once, and I guess it was like a sunny day in like the summer, and it was like 50 degrees, right? And there was all these people swimming in the water with icebergs, like laying out. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm from Florida." It's like we don't go to the house under like 78.
No,
and was it light? Because when I was in Greenland, it was light 24 hours.
Yeah.
And that
crazy.
That was the freakiest. I'd never been in an area like that. And like we go in, it's like 7 o'clock, and we come out at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's as bright as it was.
Yeah, in Alaska in the summer, it stays light to about 11 o'clock, and then it gets a little dark.
Oh, are you kidding? I won't even get in the water under 68 degrees. I got a pool in the backyard, man. I won't get into forget about polar bear, but it's maybe polar bear claw.
I have a heated pool. I have a heated pool in Florida. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you wearing a sweater yet, though, is the question, John. I want to see these guys in Florida.
Let me tell you something. In Florida, right, I used to surf in New York all year long, and we wear full wetsuits and boots and gloves and hoods. I moved to Florida. Right now, the water in the ocean is 80 degrees. And last weekend, it dropped to 78, and there was guys in wetsuits.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But once you live here a while, you do get used to it being warm,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like when I'm a runner. So when I go down to visit, my in-laws, it's hot and it's humid and I run. So I want to run wherever I am. And it takes some getting used to. It's tough.
Yeah, it's hard to breathe gravy. Florida's like, it's the humidity. It's like breathing gravy.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's actually gotten pretty humid in Los Angeles. When I first moved here, there was no humidity here at all. But,
I agree.
Well, it's a little better up where I'm up in the high desert, so it's actually still low humidity here, and I can't complain as much. It's we've air conditioning. People were using the summer here at $800, $900 a month bills. I have what they call a swamp cooler. I run that thing. It's like the price of a fan. It cools my house. So I brought the conversation totally down to
well, if you just joined us, we're talking swamp cooler.
Put the picture back on of Sue in a bathing suit. Let's.
So, how many times did you go into?
No, this wasn't Iraq. I never went to Iraq. I went to this is Kuwait.
Kuwait.
And this is the road that Saddam Hussein was where he had destroyed all of the vehicles, all the tanks and everything. So this was a remnant of that.
Where they showed on the news, everything was just smoking and on fire. I remember that.
Yeah. So they told us that we weren't allowed to take anything home with us, but there were like empty rifle shells and certain things like that. So I took a whole bunch of stuff home.
Did you name that tank after you? Because I see your name.
That's why they took a picture of me in front of it, because it had my name there. Yeah, I don't know who Mike was. Yeah, but that was wild. So this was in Zagreb, the capital of Yugoslavia. And we were like Bob Hope. We were on flatbed trucks, and this was a MASH unit.
Nice.
And it was just incredible. I mean, you know, you go to these areas, like one of the shows we did after this, we were just supposed to do a meet and greet of a bunch of soldiers who were living in the desert. And we weren't supposed to do a show. And we get there, and they had like a kind of rinky-dink microphone set up, and we were like, oh, well, we weren't really scheduled to do a show. It was just kind of, you know, hang out and talk to everybody. But how could you deny these guys? They're in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
So we just did a show for them. But it was probably, those years of my life were probably the coolest time.
That's what I've always loved about comedy. It's like, you know, nobody asks a lawyer, hey, would you look over this brief for me? But it's like, you know, hey, would you do a free show for me? You know, just get up and do a show. Come on.
Tell me
Doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are those shows that really, they're super special. Like, makes you feel like, this is why I did this.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. I mean, you know, I actually kind of stayed in touch with a couple of guys that I had met, some of the soldiers, you know, kind of like pen pals, you know,
right.
Which was kind of fun. And one guy, you know, he's a Facebook friend. I mean, I've known this guy, 30 years. So, yeah, it's very, very cool.
Yeah, that's like some of the shows I do, these shows for recovery places and things like that. And, you know, and a lot of these people have, you know, alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever it is. And they've forgotten how to laugh in life. And when you can see they've come to a show and they're laughing and they're having a good time and they understand that they can have a good time without drugs and alcohol. You're right. It does. It makes you understand that. That's why I started doing this, because I love to make people's load a little lighter, you know, unburden, you know.
I wish I had pictures of this. I went on one of the tours I went was with Mark Schiff and Don Gavin. And Don Gavin.
I met Don in Boston the first time I worked there. He walks up to me at the club and he goes, Don Gavin, only guy in Boston you need to know.
I got some great Boston stories. I'll tell you in a second. But, so we went to, we were in the United Arab Emirates, and Mark Schiff was dressed as an Arab. I mean, he had the whole headpiece and the robe, and we were waiting for our drivers to take us into the desert to have lunch with Bedouins, right? And to ride camels. So we're waiting, and they show up and they pick us up in this Jeep, and Mark is wearing the same outfit as one of the guys who were driving with us, right? and the whole ride there, we kept on saying, I hope we're not going to be late, for the Bedouins, because, they told us to be there at a certain time. We kept just making jokes about the Bedouins. So we're driving through the desert, and the guy is like making a left, like over like a dune, and then making a right. There's no street signs. I'm like, how does he know where he's going? So we're making fun of that, thinking that they don't know what we're talking about. And I thought one of the guys didn't even speak English. We get to the destination, and there's a huge tent. And the guy comes out, and it turns out these guys were Bedouins. And we were making fun of them the entire drive, right? So we get to the tent, and they have like a barbecue. They have like all this meat on a spit, and I thought it was chicken. I ended up eating goat, which really grossed me out. And then, I actually did have a picture of this, but I couldn't find it. I'm inside the tent with all these Bedouins, right? And I wanted to take a picture of me with them. And there was like 10 of them. And one of the guys has his hand like over here, like trying to cop a feel, right? As he's like getting close to, because some of the people had their arms around each other, and he's like right here. And I'm just smiling. But then after, I'm like, whoa, guys, easy. But that was like, oh God, we're hanging out, in the desert. I mean, it was just, the experiences that we had were just tremendous. But we went everywhere. We went to Turkey, we went to Japan, we went to all throughout Europe. We went to Germany and Amsterdam and Belgium. And
that is so cool. I mean, I've been.
How long did those tours last?
They were usually 2 weeks.
Right.
But it was cool because we always had time off. Like we did like we went on a Central American tour. We went to Panama, Honduras. That's in Honduras.
Nice gun.
So we went to not Costa Rica. Where did we go? We went to Nigeria, Nicaragua.
Right.
So when we were in Nicaragua, the three of us found Noriega's house, and we stood in front, and we all put dollar bills up our noses.
Is that where you were with that picture? Where were you with that picture that Craig just showed with the gun?
That was Honduras.
God, there's nothing sexier than a chick with a gun. A woman with a gun. I don't think chick is
Hanoi Jane.
You know, it's so funny. It's like when you look back, is doing a lot of the cruise ships. I got to go to a lot of these places that you can't go to anymore.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Like you can't go to Nicaragua anymore.
There's
parts of Turkey that you can't go anymore. There's lots of places that, you used to be able to go to,
Well, Turkey was really scary.
I was in Turkey during Ramadan, and I was walking down, there's like that big bazaar, the Turkish bazaar.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're walking along, and then all of a sudden, it just comes out of the speakers. And everyone just drops to their knees, and they're just looking at you like you tourist piece of shit. Why aren't you kneeling? It was really bad.
Talking about Mark Schiff, wasn't that his line? As Ramadan is not to be confused with Ramadan Ding Dong.
Like all days for the cruise ship to go. Like let them off on Ramadan, the holiest day of the year in Turkey.
Well, Mark was just hysterical because when we were in the United Arab Emirates, they had this open air market, and I wanted to buy a Persian rug. And I knew that I could probably get it pretty inexpensive there. So we go to this, it's all these different stalls, and he's dressed in his native garb. And we walk in, and Mark actually videotaped the entire tour. And then he made copies for everybody, and it's hysterical. Anyway, so he's haggling with the guy, and I just had my mind set on this one rug, and the guy kept on leaning me towards something else that was less expensive. And I was like, no, I want this one, and this is the price that I want it for. And Mark, I don't know, maybe he thought that Mark, dressed like an Arab, that maybe he was going to get a better deal. So he got some money off, but whatever. I mean, it was just crazy. I mean,
yeah, I went into some of those places in Turkey. Those rugs were really expensive.
Yeah,
in Turkey, yeah.
But Turkey was really scary because when we got there, we got debriefed at the airport. There, I guess the equivalent of their George Washington. His name is Ataturk, and they warned us that if we said anything disparaging about this guy while we were on stage, we would get kicked out of the country.
Wow.
And maybe other repercussions. Like, I don't know whether they would put us in jail, put us in prison.
There's a place I want to perform.
So we would be hanging out in the lobby waiting for our ride, and we would be joking about Ataturk just to each other, and then looking around to see if anybody can hear us. But they had, it was on heightened alert when we were there. And I was with Ken Ober, who was my boyfriend at the time. And Kenny was a very, very funny guy, but he would do things sometimes that you would look at him like, what is wrong with you? This is you are so ridiculous. So they had inside, it's not the BX. I'm trying to think if it was the BX. It was a building. It was a military building where we would go to just kind of, meet up with whoever was the people who were in charge of us. And there's a sandwich board, and it had all the colors of all the heightened alert, and then the lesser alert, and it's like a rainbow of colors. And I guess the highest one was maybe red or whatever. So Kenny took the panels out and rearranged them to make it look like there was danger.
Oh no.
Such an idiot.
That's what you want to do on a military base. Yeah,
I know,
let's screw around, make everyone on edge and think it's a red alert.
Well,
yeah.
I think they knew, they knew. They probably, I don't know if they obviously didn't know we did it because we would have gotten in trouble. All right, guys. Nice.
All right.
Okay. Sue, thank you so much.
Hey, that was Sue Kolinsky. What a great interview. Very funny and talented, and has been everywhere. And thanks again, Sue, from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, she was terrific. Thank you so much, Sue.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is great. She gave me for sitting on her camera. That was very nice.
And it's still up his ass.
There you go.
So, hey, everybody, if you enjoyed our show, got to tune in every week. You can catch us on Facebook. That's right. You can catch us on the Big Bad Broadcast.
Woo!
Or you can catch us on our website, which is www.thebbbradio.com. We got all our past shows. And also we have, if you don't have time to watch, you can listen to it. There's a link there on our podcast.
Yep.
And it's just an amazing thing. And
watch the show, give us a like, maybe make a comment. You know what I'm saying? Hey, is that too much trouble? Make a little comment. Give us a like, comment. There you go.
Or he'll be coming to your house looking for you.
He will. Trust me.
And we have a Twitter page and
the BBB Radio Podcast at Twitter. Actually, it's BBB Radio Podcast at Twitter.
It's a lot of B's, folks.
Too many B's.
All righty. Well, we'll catch you next week.
See you next week.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Thank you.